everybody, it's Donna in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and thank you for tuning in to Pysanky Techniques, Tips and Tricks by Donna. Today I am going to show how I go about varnishing a finished egg. The product that I use is this One Shot. It is a solvent-based painter's product. It's called Sign Painter's One Shot. And this is product number 4005. It comes in the green and black and white can. It's a great product. It doesn't yellow. It is awesome and it is expensive. But I have done about 300 eggs out of this can. It's finally time to order a new one. One nice thing about it is that since it doesn't yellow, you can put it on a white egg and you don't have to worry about your egg yellowing over time. And it's very durable. One coat is all that it really needs. I have not broken an egg while emptying it ever since I started using this product. It's that strong that it really helps preserve the eggshell. A lot of people use different products. You have to use something that's not water-based though, or it will make the dye on your eggs run. So it's very important to get some kind of a solvent-based product, whether it's a varnish or a polyurethane or whatever else you use. Just make sure that it is a solvent-based or one that will not clean up with water is probably a good way to remember it. Another nice thing about that product is it doesn't harden up in the can. I don't know about you, but I've had bad luck with varnishes, which, by the way, this isn't a varnish. Varnish is a specific term, but it's kind of a generic term that's used incorrectly all the time. So if I say varnish, I'm talking about this. It's a finish. Anyway, it will thicken over time though. And so the same company sells this product, which is a reducer that you can put in with it, just a few drops to make it thinner again. This is the low temperature reducer, although they sell a high temperature reducer. Some people buy either one and I think they work equally well. But this is the low temperature one that I use, and this is product number ZZ6001. You can look these up online. They're available from a lot of different places, including Amazon, but you might find a better price elsewhere. You'll just have to do your research on that and decide where you want to buy from. As soon as I got that product though, just to make it easier and not open the can and shut the can and all of that, I put it in a mason jar with a plastic lid. I use a plastic lid because the metal ones can rust. Plus this is more airtight. I even put an extra piece of saran over it to keep it from getting air to it. And like I said, I've done about 300 eggs so far out of that can, and it's about 2 years old, and so it has really held up. There's different ways to coat your eggs. I mean, the technique of coating your eggs. And a lot of it depends on whether you work on full eggs or empty eggs. I work on full eggs. I complete the egg, I then put the coating on it, then after it's dry, I empty it out. Some people don't want to risk that because there is always the risk that you're going to break a finished egg that you've just spent hours making. I have not broken an egg since I've used this product. I didn't break very many before that. It's all about learning your technique on how to empty an egg. And I actually have another video online showing that. So if you work on empty eggs, I'll just show you what some people do. Say that this was an egg that's finished and I need to coat it. It's actually an already varnished egg, but the hole is in the bottom. So what people do is they will take a skewer, in this case it's just a bamboo skewer, and they'll put it on styrofoam or anything just to hold it up in the air for drying. Usually they put a piece of foil or something underneath to catch the drips. Then they would take this and dip it right in the can and then put it on here, let it drain, and then that's how they finish their eggs. Because I work with whole eggs, I don't have a hole in the bottom yet, so I can't do that. And I like my technique better anyway. Everybody who does eggs has their own techniques. They all work. It's all up to you what you like to use. So first step for what I do is you must have, you don't have to, you can get messy if you want, but gloves. These are nitrile gloves. You can't use latex gloves. They have to be nitrile. If you use latex, there's something about the finish and the latex that will cause the finish not to dry. So you must use nitrile gloves. Another thing I will say, no matter what finish you get, and I may have already said this, but I'm not sure, is it has to be solvent-based. It can't be something that can be cleaned up with water, because if you get a water-based finish and put it on your eggs, it will cause your dyes to run. A lot of people make that mistake in the beginning. Don't make that mistake, you'll ruin your work. You must get a finish that is solvent-based or oil-based, or the simplest way to remember is you can't clean it up with water. Okay, I'm going to tilt my camera so that you can actually see what I'm doing here. I have 2 trays laid out. One of them has the eggs and my jar on it. I've got a piece of paper towel in between to catch any drips as I'm going across. And I put my eggs on what's called a drying rack, a craft drying rack, to catch the drips and let the egg drain. This is available on Amazon. It's great because it's got these little spokes on it. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. But anyway, it keeps your item up high so that the drips will fall down. I've been told they also sell these at dollar stores in Canada in the pet section or the garden section, and they're called scat mats or something like that to keep your pets out of the garden. So that may be another less expensive option. So I take my jar and I put my hand in it. I just get in there and get a whole bunch of varnish on my hands, rub it around on the gloves, and then pick up my egg and just roll that around in my palm and with my fingers. Now, the first egg is going to have more finish on it than your subsequent eggs. So want to go back to the first eggs and kind of do a little wiping up, because you'll get like a little drip and pool on the very bottom of the egg if you don't. I have coated this rack with some spray cooking stuff like Pam so that the little spokes don't stick to my eggs. You still might get a little bit of sticking, but nothing that's really going to hurt the egg at all. And I find that after, probably when I'm doing a batch here, I've got 13 eggs to do. When I'm doing a batch like this, pretty much by the time I get to the 13th egg, I can go back to the first egg and just turn it a quarter turn so that if it does want to stick to the spokes here, the little knobs, that it won't stick because I'm turning it. So I have done 5 eggs now with this first dip. And so I'm going to reach in now and get some more. I'm not going to do as much as I did the first time, but just enough to refresh what I've got in my palms here. And continue doing this. The eggs that I'm doing right here are from a book called Divide and Conquer, written by Susan Jones. She is one of the people who is in the Facebook egg groups that I belong to. One of them is called Incredible Eggs, Pysanky and Batik, or something like that. I can't remember the exact name. And the other one is called Pysanky USA. And there's Ukrainian egg accessories. There's a lot of online support for people who do egg writing. So if you are not a member of any of those groups, consider joining them. They're very helpful and a really nice community of people. We do a Zoom call every Sunday, and no matter what question you have, you can get at least a dozen answers to how to do whatever it is you're wondering about. The thing to remember about Pysanky and, which I'm saying incorrectly, it's Pysanky, is that there are as many different techniques for how people do things as there are people doing it. Everybody who's done this for any length of time has discovered what works for them. They believe in it, they love it, they defend it, and none of it's wrong. If it works for that person, then it's viable. Each individual just has to experiment. I'll get just a tiny bit more here. Each person has to experiment and decide what works for them. But that's what's really nice about it. There's all these techniques and we can all learn from each other. I've been doing this since about 1987, although I took a very long break. Maybe every 5 years or so I'd get my stuff out and do it. And I've learned a lot just in the last 2 years by being a member of the groups on Facebook. It's a very good community of people, lots to learn. So there we go. I just did 13 eggs. I'm going to go ahead and do this quarter turn that I told you about. just so that if they're starting to stick a little bit that they won't. These are kind of dry to the touch on a day that isn't too humid. In about, oh, I don't know, maybe a half hour. They're not dry to empty yet, but they are dry to the touch. And that's when I would pick it up, and if I've got a little drip on the bottom, like see this one, you may not be able to see it, but there was a drip on the bottom there. And I just wiped that right off with my hand. By the time you get to the second and third egg, that generally doesn't happen. It's just on maybe your first 2 eggs you might have to check. So that is how I go about finishing an egg. I will show you how I take these gloves off. Grab a piece of paper towel, and it's messy, obviously. So I just get a hold of the glove in the paper towel, kind of fold it all up there so that I've got a hold of it, and then I will toss these in the trash. So thank you for watching. As always, if you have any questions, you are free to leave me a comment below. Contact me that way and I will respond if you have a question. I always monitor those. So thank you again for watching, and let me know what you'd like to see on my channel.